Why place it at the bottom of this leg that right now, at this point, has no people in it? Even though there are people in there, nobody's willing to even lift a finger to try to do something.
You never want to sacrifice time and effort. It's like if you've already built 30, 40 people and you say, well, no one's doing anything. Well, they're not doing anything because they have no belief that it's going to work. So you have to change the belief window. Now, am I saying that all 30 will step up and do it? No. But what I'm saying is I want to follow through on my commitment that I said that I'm going to drive depth here, and I'm going to drive depth. Now then, if they quit, fine. But they can never say I didn't follow through on what I said.
Right. And so within those 30, the analogy could be that they're wet. Their wood is wet. You know, there's a bunch of wood that is absolutely wet. And our job as leaders, maybe it's you yourself made that commitment, or maybe there's 2 or 3 leaders in that line of sponsorship said that 3 of us are going to help build depth. And so our job is to go down in depth, the deepest point we can, because we're leveraging our efforts, build a fire, and then maybe in that process some of this wet wood will dry up. Maybe in there's a doctor who's doing well in life, but all of a sudden says, hey, I need to really get some royalty income in my life. Look at this going here, and all of a sudden their wood dries up and catches fire. And I love what you said here. You don't want to sacrifice time and effort just because, or out of ego, the heck with them, I'm just going to open a new leg.
That's right. Forget them. Yeah, that is so important. It's like there's the driest wood is at the bottom. And if you put enough dry wood onto a fire, I don't care how wet that wood is, you get it hot enough and it'll light a lot of that wet wood that smoked at first. And they, well, I don't have time, I don't have this, I don't have money, I don't know anybody. It's amazing how many of them, their ears pop out, they start listening, they start attending, and they start growing into the leaders that they could have been all along, but they just didn't believe.
Let's talk about leverage. You know, give me a lever long enough and I can move the world.
Archimedes.
Our business is a lot about leverage. A lot of it is, and then we could go on and talk about leverage in a lot of areas, but let's talk specifically duplication and depth on leverage. Let's say we have a taproot leg 30 people deep. And we touched on this a little bit in the beginning. We've got, theoretically, let's say 1 hour this week to put in our business. Obviously, that's not the case. We obviously have more than that as leaders, but just for example purposes. Where's the best place to place that hour of work?
Right, you're going to go to the bottom of your taproot or whatever leg you're building, because if you get an activity down there, a best example would be dominoes. You can line up 30 dominoes, and if you only have 1 domino to knock over, which one would you knock over? Well, if you're trying to knock over the most dominoes, you'd want to knock the one that if you knock that one, it'll knock the next one, which will knock the next one, and the next thing you know, you got 30 dominoes knocked over. Or you could do it differently and have to knock over 30 in order to knock over all 30. Well, that's what depth is. Depth through leverage says if you go to the taps and you will build depth at the taps, when you sponsor someone into the bottom of a taproot and there's 30 upline, you just motivated 30 people because you just helped 30 people's business. If you sponsor someone off to the side on the first guy, you just helped that guy, and the other 29, nothing's happening for him. So you have to look at it. Leverage is just like that dominoes. I can line up 1,000,000 dominoes, and if I do it properly, I knock over 1 domino, and the next thing you know, I've helped 1,000,000 dominoes get to their goals. And that's kind of the same principle as we want to look at your business, and as it's structured, the further down you go and have success, it's like a fire. If you light a fire on the 1st floor and you're on the 15th floor, man, you're going to be pretty motivated to get out of that building. But if you're on the 1st floor and there's a fire on the 15th floor, you're not as motivated because you're like, I've got time to get out of the building. The same thing, cause that, you get that fire near the bottom, and it'll light a whole bunch of people up on fire and get moving.
That's a great analogy. So look at it this way. You've got a leg of 30 people. You happen to be one of the people in that leg. All of a sudden, Orrin Woodward looks down on the 30th person at the bottom. That person also happens to be really hungry. They live in Orlando, Florida. Orrin says, they're so hungry, I'm actually going to go do an open meeting, a home meeting for them, or a meeting. Does that meeting and ends up sponsoring 4 or 5 people from that meeting. Now, all of a sudden, there's a message that goes out to all 30 people, be it email or call, say, hey, by the way, Orrin just went over to Orlando, talked to this gentleman, he's on your team, he's on your 20th level, 12th level, whatever it is. He did a meeting on your, on your organization, this many people sponsored, and that guy's on fire. Imagine you're in this leg, what does that do to your mindset right now? As you were listening to this, imagine if that was on your team, how would you feel? 12 people deep, 15 people deep in your organization, Orrin went down there and did a meeting on your behalf for somebody in your leg. Now, is this being generous? No. Orrin knows the best use of his time is at the bottom of the leg because he knows that meeting now can help motivate you. So
that call, when I'm calling you after I've had that meeting, hey, Art, good news, buddy, your business is exploding. We just put 5 new people at the bottom, and I tell you, there is an accountant there, had 100 names on his list. We are going to be showing those plans next week. You are on your way to hitting the next level. I am so fired up.
Mm-hmm. Phone calls worth making.
Oh, yes. I mean, you can leave, and if they don't answer, man, leave that message. They'll play that over and over and over. And I tell you, you will stimulate a lot of growth on those side legs because they'll realize, man, the fire is in the building. I got to explode these second legs and hit these new levels.
And their hunger will grow. As you're listening to this, if that was Orrin calling you, that was your voicemail message, I bet your hunger would grow and say, well, I'd better go learn how to do this. I'd better go learn how to create competence. And by saying, I'd better do this, your hunger just grew. And you absolutely move forward in your business. The other part of this is just, side benefit is filling up events. Let's say that we had a regional event coming up or a big function coming up, a national team event, and this leg is 45 people deep. What's the best way to get as many of those 45 people to that event?
If you sell some tickets for that event to the person down at the bottom of the tap or down near the bottom, and you call their upline and say, hey, John, great news. Bill and Sarah are coming to the regional here, and we are so excited. Hey, listen, I want to make sure you're coming so you can get a chance to meet some of your new teammates, some of your new partners. And they say, yeah, I was going to come to that. I don't have my, oh, well, great. Well, we'll get you those tickets. Then I can call upline for them. Hey, guess what? Bill and Sarah and Tom are coming. Man, hey, Art, you want to make sure you're there. You've got 5 people coming to this event. And then you keep matching, keep calling it up. Eventually you got 32 people coming to this event.
Yep. If you're wondering, how do you fill in an event?
That's how you do it.
One way. So you call the 30th person, or maybe you even visit them. It's a 2-hour drive. Guess what? It's a worthwhile 2-hour drive to have lunch with them. During that lunch, get a commitment that they're coming to the event, sell them a ticket, and now you have one ticket, which is called leverage, on the 29th person.
You draw out their group to them. Show them all the people you have.
The 29th person decides to go, you now have 2 tickets to the 20th person. And if at that event, out of this 30-person leg, 20 show up, that's a good number. That's a chance that those 20 people will get to have lunch, sit next to each other, talk to each other, build a relationship, build a friendship, and now they're even less likely to quit on each other. So you understand that these are all 1% activities that compounded over time create tremendous results. But you can leverage by building this thing called depth. So hopefully you're getting a little bit more of the psychology behind where to put your effort, where to put your time. If you do have time to go do a meeting, then maybe find the deepest part of your organization with the hungriest person, and that's the place to go do the next meeting, with the hopes that you will wake up somebody in that line at some point. It may not be now, it may not be ever, but at least keep them updated on what's happening down in depth. So we create volume this way. Because why?
You got to give people something to lose. And if they start to realize that this train's going to arrive to the station anyway, they're going to stay on your train, and they're going to try to figure out, man, how do I, if I've got 1,000 points going through this organization, what do I need to do outside to hit that next level and get recognized? And we can start, you can call them and say, man, you're only 200 points away from hitting this next level. You're only 300. And if they hit that level, then you can call upline to them. You're only 300 points away from hitting this level. All the different levels in your business. And so it's like all the levels, all the new ranks, all the new pins all flow up from the bottom. If you help somebody new at the bottom hit a level, and that's the goal. Every 30 days, your goal is to help somebody at the bottom achieve a new level. Because that will then be the domino that helps the next person be in a position where they could hit the next level and the next, and domino right on up. And you can build massive volume that repeats again and again and again from that principle. We teach depth is not an option. If you're going to have a big organization that will last longer than you, it's through building numbers. And you cannot build numbers without building depth. I don't care if otherwise you're just spinning plates. I mean, you can take plates, you can get that one spinning real good, and this one, and you get 3 or 4 plates spinning real fast, and eventually you're like, man, you run out of time, and this one starts dropping on you. or juggling. It's juggle 2 balls, juggle 3, juggle 4, but eventually you just can't juggle anymore. But building depth allows you to have other people grab those balls and start juggling for themselves, and that is the key to a long-term business. So depth is not an option. You will either learn how to build depth or you will be frustrated in networking.
Mm-hmm. And if you're listening to this going, yeah, but in our plan, we can't build depth. Well, I can say this. I do know networkers in a lot of companies, obviously not all. There's a new company every week or two. Some of the true rock stars of our profession have built substantial incomes. Even if their plan is, short-term building depth, they lose a lot of money. Almost all of them to a T learn how to build depth. And it didn't matter the plan. And ultimately, whatever plan you're in, with 3 legs, 2, 3, 4 legs, you're going to get rewarded.
That's right.
I mean, it's about that number. So let's use leverage to build the legs as quickly as you possibly can. Don't go for that lottery mentality of going 100 wide, hoping one of them hits. Let's use a little bit of practicality, so to speak.